All right. Hello, everybody. As always, I'm Brad. That's Mike. We're Dallas Geek, and we are your source for all of the latest nerdy news and geek culture. Mike, how you doing today?
It's my last day of PTO, so I'm a little sad. But the last week's been nice and relaxing.
Well, good one of us is getting relaxed.
Right?
So with that, speaking of an inability to relax, we do have a let's say slightly stressful bit of news that's been going on in the entertainment industry that's not really giving anybody a chance to relax.
I was about to say, I think that's a little bit more than slightly stressful when you're trying to save $5.5 billion.
I mean, I guess if you're Bob Iger, it might not be too stressful, but you know, who am I to judge?
I mean, depending on what he's getting paid.
It's Bob Iger, so he's getting paid Bob Iger money.
Okay, so yeah, probably not as much stress as he can handle then.
It is Disney after all.
Hey, they're probably just backing the trucks, plural, up to his doorstep every day. Yeah.
For 2 years. A 2-year contract.
Yep.
But yes, so if you have missed the entertainment news,
the hell have you been doing with yourselves?
This has been what? A few weeks?
At least a week. Yeah, at least a week, if
well,
not two.
I mean, the original announcement was like a month ago.
Right.
And yeah, so Disney has announced a mass layoff that's going to be happening across all the divisions. That is going to be dealing with at least, I think the numbers we were finding was between 3,000 and 7,000 Disney proper layoffs. Not really sure how that's going to spread across all the different divisions of the Disney brand.
Because that includes ABC, ESPN.
Well, I thought the ESPN layoffs were going to be separate from that 7.
So what I had read is that it was 7,000 across everything that Disney owned. Is how I understood it. You might be right, but I was going under the assumption that it was 7,000 across, like everything that fell under the Disney. I want to say umbrella, but I don't think that's menacing enough for the mouse.
I mean, definitely.
Biodome? Thunderdome? There we go.
There it
Got
is.
it.
There it is.
Yep.
There it is. I don't know if they own Mad Max or not, but you know what? It feels. Wait, Mad Max was Fox, wasn't it?
Ooh, that's a really good question.
Because if so, that means they would own.
Was it Fox or was it Warner Brothers?
Let's find out. You looked that up.
On it.
But yes, so Disney is in the midst of some mass layoffs that unfortunately are going to mean
Warner Brothers.
Well, there you go.
So we found one property that the mouse doesn't own.
For now.
Yet.
But no, there's going to be some very devastating news for a lot of people very soon, because these layoffs are expected to be implemented within the next like 2 to 3 weeks.
I think they've said by the beginning of April to early April is when they want it to take into effect. And let me just reiterate that number: 5.5 billion.
Now, yes, it seems like it would be easy enough to be able to say that a lot of this looks like damage caused by Bob Chapek during his short tenure, but
how long was Chapek the CEO?
Give or take a year?
Ooh.
Once again, I'll let you check that one.
On it.
Problem here is, no matter how much Chapek might have screwed up, and let's not misunderstand, he screwed up a lot.
I mean, if you're coming in and trying to save $5.5 billion, something went wrong somewhere, right?
Yeah, but I think we have to realize that
2 years.
Okay, 2 years. You don't just blow $5.5 billion beyond your sustainable budget in 2 years.
No.
That is something that even Disney has to build up to.
Yeah.
And while I'm sure Bob Iger, when he left Disney, and let's be honest, probably caused a decent amount of this debt that they're trying to recoup.
Yeah.
He likely had a plan in place for how it could be covered.
Right.
If his way of running the company had continued to be maintained. The fact that that's not what happened. The fact that
new CEO
came in, and
new business initiatives,
massive left turn.
Yep.
And I mean, if we're being entirely honest, he broke the number one rule of running Disney. You don't break the magic and do something so greedy that it reminds everybody that Disney is just another multinational company.
You got that censor button ready? Don't. It's that simple.
It is.
Like, it's really that simple. Like, the term Disney adult is a thing. Like, the fact that this is a generational company, that the whole business model is sharing things upon generation and generation and generation, and like, I have something to pass down to my kids. I have this that I can share with my kids. I have this that we can watch together. Yeah. Like, you don't mess with it. It's pretty simple.
And I mean, the thing is, while we've all taken for granted that Disney kind of just prints their own money at this point.
I mean, literally, they print their own money.
Yeah.
Isn't Disney Cash or Disney Bucks or whatever the shit it's called a thing?
Well, I mean, they've gone digital with the little, was it Fast Pass, Genie Pass, whatever thing. But, I mean, yeah, more or less. The problem here is there's a lot of things at play at this one, and it's not just one screw up or another. Honestly, I'm kind of surprised it's taken this long for such a massive financial crunch to come to Disney, considering how much they've been spending so liberally over the last decade.
Yep.
I mean, the amount of money that they've dropped to buy different franchises or different companies, and the number of franchises and companies they've been buying.
Right.
And then the massive black hole that is the Disney Plus streaming budget.
Well, not just that, too, the soaring costs of production for pretty much all of their movies.
Like, well, not just movies, TV shows.
Yeah,
but I mean, when a single episode of a franchise TV show has a budget equivalent to a major blockbuster movie, and you're doing multiple episodes in a season.
Yep.
Multiple seasons, that's not a small amount of money to be dumping into a platform that is primarily monetized by new subscribers.
No, but even then, like, what was it we looked it up? Like, the last 8 Pixar movies have had a budget of 180 million or more. Yeah. And that's just production. That's not marketing. That's not anything else. Like, I think the last 5 have been 200 million plus.
Yeah.
And you just had Lightyear, which tanked.
Yeah.
Turning Red went straight to Disney Plus, so you don't really know what they recouped or lost on that,
or could have.
Right.
And
that's a cash cow. Pixar is.
Yeah.
We put our name on it. It makes 500 million plus easy.
So this is kind of where we found ourselves. Because not only do we know that Disney has been spending money about as fast and loose as just about every other major studio in Hollywood.
Dude, I think there are lotto winners that haven't been spending at the rate that Disney's spending.
Well, in fairness, there are lotto winners that don't spend at the rate that most Hollywood studios spend. In general, Disney's just the most prominent.
That's fair.
I mean, think about how much money now Warner Discovery throws around regularly,
which is crazy.
and before that, before Discovery came into the picture, how much money Warner Brothers AT&T was throwing around.
I've got one. Qatar isn't spending money the way Disney's spending money, and they bought a World Cup with oil and blood money.
Literally.
Allegedly.
Literally.
Yes.
No, not allegedly.
Well,
there's video evidence.
Oh yeah, they were using slave. The number of bodies in those stadiums.
But let's try not to think too hard about that one.
But like, if you like a $5.5 billion course correct is something that takes place over decades,
not months.
Right.
So
like decades plural.
Yeah. So here's the problem that I think, well, Disney is partially to blame for this. I mean, there's really no escaping that one. No. I think in a way we are also, as a general audience, partially to blame for this problem too.
Victim blaming, interesting idea. Let's see where this goes.
I mean, in a way, it kind of is victim blaming, but not in the way you think.
Right.
So,
just thought of an awful joke. I'll share it with you off air.
Thank you.
Yep.
The censor button only goes so far.
Yeah. So and it wouldn't cover what's in my head right now. That's for sure.
So the audiences as a whole, we have been complaining about the same problem for every major studio, but Disney especially, for years now, that they keep putting out new sequels or remakes or just some other addition to a franchise that didn't need to exist. They keep trying to push this idea that because a franchise has existed, that it needs to keep existing even after its logical conclusion has come and gone, and now they're trying to pull a Weekend with at Bernie's and hoping that nobody notices the dead body.
Well, I mean, shit. There's the joke now that, I wonder what the live action remake is this year. Well, let's just take all of our classic cartoons that are critically loved and universally loved by the fans and make below average to average live action remakes.
Or CGI remakes and call it a live action.
Lion King. Like a $280 million budget for that movie.
Oh my gosh.
But it did have, I mean, wait, hang on. But we did get Childish Gambino playing Simba.
I mean, fair. But I mean, speaking of Weekend at Bernie's, that seems like a potentially viable solution that Disney probably considered for the upcoming Indiana Jones movie. I mean, it might be a little too soon, but
shit,
and that's kind of the problem here. Whether or not it's a situation where the franchise should continue, but the actors in it really deserve a chance to be swapped out, or the franchise itself is just, it needs a break. Look, or it's just no longer relevant.
I love the Indiana Jones films. I love Harrison Ford.
Yeah.
At some point, somebody has to be the person that's like, you know what? It's time for you to go back to the home.
Let the man rest.
Go live out the rest of your days. You've done enough.
And try not to die in another crash.
Or break his leg filming Force Awakens. Jesus.
But I mean,
like at some point, like
these are problems though that we've kind of been partially responsible for creating.
100%.
Because yes, Disney and all the other studios out there keep putting these movies out.
Mm-hmm. But we keep going to them.
Yeah. Yep. Now, I will say, and this is where the kind of victim blamey part of the argument comes into play. Life has sucked.
Save it for after the show. Save it for after the show.
Life, let's just say life has kind of sucked recently.
Why? What's been going on?
There have been some, let's say, stressful things that have happened to all of us, especially if you happen to be within the millennial age range or younger. And
did I miss a world war or
almost actually?
Huh.
A couple times.
Huh.
Yeah.
Okay.
And potentially coming up, but we'll see. But we all are so stressed out that we need our escapism.
Mm-hmm.
And unfortunately, when we aren't given the quality of escapism that we're all craving to try to counterbalance the level of extreme chaos that has existed, most of us are willing to accept the next best available thing, even if best is not really the adjective that it should be used.
I would not describe Kingdom of the Crystal Skull as the next best thing, but continue.
What is that?
It's something that happened in 2008, which again, we're getting an Indiana Jones movie
2008
years.
didn't happen. Haven't you been listening to the Republican Party? 2008 didn't happen.
I was actually going to make that joke.
But I mean...
I seem to remember a black guy winning the presidency. That didn't happen? Did I just dream for 8 years?
Well, I mean, there was rumors of some collapse of some market. I don't know, but I mean...
Oh, yeah, the housing market crash.
Some people happened.
Oh, the same year that the black guy got in. Isn't that weird? It's a joke. Everybody calm down. Wow. Everybody calm down. Don't send me emails.
Censor button anyway. Doesn't go far enough.
Yeah.
But no,
But think about that. It's 2008.
Yeah.
And then after, I mean, that's a 15-year gap. And then when was Last Crusade? It was about, what, a 25-year gap in between Last Crusade and Kingdom of the Crystal Skull?
And
like, we can't leave well enough alone at this point?
Yeah. But, like, the problem is, like, we are willing to accept it. But that is absolutely the problem.
No. Let me rephrase.
We're willing to accept it enough to give our money to go see them.
No, let me correct you on that. We all went into the theater and then we were like, no, we're not going to accept this.
And yet we didn't all get refunds. And that's the problem.
I mean,
we are accepting enough of...
But South Park took them to task.
As much as they can.
I mean... Do you not remember the episode?
Oh, I do. I do. But I mean, how much came of that? Like that's the problem, though. Like, as long as we keep giving our money to the undeserved sequels or remakes, every time we keep going and saying, well, the movie that we want isn't out, but this is close enough for me to turn my brain off for a while. It keeps incentivizing more and more studios to do this over and over again. And unfortunately, with the ever increasing nature of the average Hollywood budget, since blockbusters are the new norm, we now have a scenario where even crappy movies are pushing studio budgets to a point that are now coming back to cause real harm to the people that work for these studios.
Oh, absolutely. But you did just say blockbuster, right?
Blockbuster in the...
Did you see...
The traditional form,
but
like the traditional summer blockbuster format, not like...
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
You saw the website though, right?
Which one?
Blockbuster's website?
No, I haven't.
It updated randomly last week, and it says, be kind while we rewind. Jeez. So the internet lost its collective minds thinking the blockbuster's coming back.
Somebody bought that. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, if they would have just integrated and actually taken Netflix seriously, they probably could have lasted another 2 decades.
That's the problem. But the problem that we have, though, is that we kind of let this happen.
Oh,
and unfortunately,
absolutely. Yeah.
Because even though we did it for the sake of trying to subdue our own depression, at least momentarily, we do have to at least partially accept blame for the problems that have come from this. Now, is it realistic to think that if we had, as a collective general audience, said no more, we don't like these crappy sequels, we don't like these crappy remakes, stop it, give us something different, and had legitimately held out on spending our money for only the movies that were worth it, only the the variety of genres that we still keep begging for, rather than just the same genre over and over again. The action genre.
It's not.
Could that have actually made a difference? I don't really know, but obviously at this point, hindsight's 2020.
Of course.
Maybe it would have made a difference, but at this point we are where we are, and now people are losing their jobs over this. They're losing their livelihoods, and we, as a general audience, have to accept that the future of entertainment, because Disney will be setting the trend as they always do.
Of course.
Future of entertainment could look very, very different and potentially much bleaker than what it looks like today.
Now, I guess the other thing that I would raise to that counterpoint, though, is something that we've talked about in the past, which was the boom of the slasher genre in the 80s and early 90s.
Sure.
Is what if you see a bunch of small studios that make the art house independent films, put them out there, and they're successful? Or, you know, what if, and we haven't really heard too much about what the modus operandi moving forward is for Disney. But what if Disney takes a look at this and says, you know what, no more movies with a budget of over $150 million. Like, we have to be more savvy with how we make our movies. We have to be more savvy with what we greenlight. What if, and I know it's hard to bring up that argument with Toy Story 5, Frozen 3, Inside Out 2, Zootopia 2, fucking all the sequels that they've announced.
Yeah.
But what if this is just a quick course correct while Iger's in charge, and what if the new CEO coming in, because CEOs still have to answer to the board, to shareholders, to everything like that.
Absolutely.
What if we do see some pushback in terms of, like, you know what, no more sequels. Like, stop making $200 million sequels that bomb out at the box office. Make something original, keep the budget low, put out good quality stuff, actually bring people back in. Because I think we are going to get to a point, because we talked about the fatigue with, you know, superhero movies and everything like that.
Yeah.
I think you're going to get to a point where, like, even a new Toy Story doesn't bring people in. Even Frozen 3 doesn't bring people in.
Absolutely. Which is another one that's in pre-production.
What?
Frozen 3.
Yeah. There is going to be a point where, like, audiences do kind of get to a point where, like, hey, we're done. Enough's enough. Give us something original.
So, I mean, you and I talked about this. I think that is absolutely possible. That either before he leaves, Iger starts that trend, or the next CEO comes in and starts the trend of trying to pull back and go lower budget productions, smaller productions, trying to push the indie thing, and reserving the big budget tentpole franchises and the blockbusters for, you know, classic blockbuster settings, you know, the big summer blockbuster, and that is it, rather than having like 10, 15 blockbuster style movies throughout the entire year.
Right.
But there is always the other side of this, the significantly more cautionary overreaction of, well, it's the franchises that have been around forever that consistently make money.
Right.
So let's cut back and only do those. Let's only go for known properties that we know have a built-in audience. Let's try to be as safe as possible.
Right.
And just accept that this is how we're going to make our money until we can definitively have a high enough profit margin to, I don't know, fund whatever future venture that they consider the justifiable next step.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, I think a lot of studios, not necessarily Disney, but I mean, sometimes Disney, definitely most other studios, have shown us that they will more often than not push for the ultra safe, ultra conservative method of go for the known properties only, because there's no risk.
Yeah.
And maybe that is what some will do, but I think Disney of all of them has the biggest opportunity to go the other route, because that is what they're known for historically.
Yeah.
They are known for these smaller, more nimble productions. They are known for the more creative art house revolutions.
And it's
honestly.
really only been the last 2 decades where it's been sequel, money. Well, they've always been money.
Yeah.
But it's been sequel, franchise. Yeah.
And I mean, don't forget though, the movie studio is only part of the equation here.
Right.
I mean, we still have to consider how this is going to affect, like you said, ESPN,
ABC, the parks.
Yeah, especially the parks, because the parks, of all the rumors that have come out about how the layoffs are going to affect Disney, more of the rumors than not have been pointing in the direction that the parks are going to take some of the heaviest hits.
Which would be a gigantic middle finger to Chapek.
Yeah, but at the same time, I don't know how likely that is.
Right.
Only because Bob Iger has always considered the Disney parks to be the best marketing that Disney can ever spend money on.
True.
Very true. Losing money there by underselling certain things or just cutting profit margins.
Or like damaging the experience of the Disney park. Yeah.
It's worth it if it makes it better for the people going to the parks.
Yeah.
And they'll accept the operating loss.
Yeah.
Now, with this level of financial difficulty, because remember, we do have to just keep perspective here. It is still Disney, and they got Disney money, regardless of what they say on the books.
That's fair.
We do have to just remember that Iger's not the only one that gets to pull strings.
That's true.
And things can still happen.
Yeah.
There can still be bad decisions made, or decisions that have all the best intentions but end up causing more problems for more people.
I will say one of the things that I guess is promising, although I don't know if that's the right word, is reading about some of the, because I'm a sports guy. You swam, so we know you're not a sports guy.
Fair.
I'm just saying, if it's an activity you do to stay alive, it's not a sport.
I mean, I'll take it.
But one of the things that I've been reading, especially on the ESPN side, is basically they have been told to essentially that there are no sacred cows, anybody's fair game. Which, I mean, the fact that they're willing to say that it doesn't matter who you are, it doesn't matter what your name is, like you can be victim to these cuts. I mean, like I guess the term would be refreshing. It's refreshing to see that the company's sitting there saying, like, yeah, we don't really care what your name is, like, so it does seem like that there is a vested interest in doing whatever they can to course right the ship, and that they're not, well, we need to correct this, but we can't get rid of that guy because of his name. Well, we have to correct this. Oh, but that guy's kind of important. I guess we can leave him there to keep making like $12 million a year.
Yeah.
So that is a little bit promising and refreshing, I will say.
Yeah. No, I think that
promising and refreshing when we're talking about potentially 7,000 people losing their jobs.
Yeah. I think there is still a lot up in the air about what is going to happen, what could happen, and honestly what the best thing to happen could potentially be.
Agreed. 100%.
I think the only thing that we know definitively is that at this point,
it's gonna happen.
There's really no way to protect the people who are going to be hurt by this, because it's a given at this point.
Absolutely. Like this is not rumors. These are coming.
Yeah, and for us to look at how this is going to affect entertainment moving forward is not us trying to minimize the impact of the layoffs, because obviously for layoffs this size, especially when so many other entertainment and tech companies have been putting mass layoffs out there, just weekly at this point.
Yep.
It is there's really no looking away from that.
No.
But I mean, it goes back to part of the reason why we more or less caused at least a portion of this too, is that, I mean, when things do get really, really crappy, we all need some way to be able to escape from the crap for at least a little bit. And if that opportunity is taken away from us and we have nothing but the forced wallowing in this, all of it. I think ultimately that just makes it that much worse.
Yeah.
So yeah, we're not trying to minimize this whatsoever, but it is. There are so many aspects to this, and I mean, we haven't even touched on half of them during this show, but enough of them, hopefully, that if you were unaware of what's been going on with Disney, that you are at least caught up enough to have a starting point to understand what's any coming. New announcements that come out, because there are going to be more announcements each week at this point.
Yep, 100%.
So, yeah, I guess we will just see what happens, and hopefully
we can talk about something cheerier next week.
Please, yes. With that, guys, thank you so much for joining us. Don't forget, as always, if you have not already, if you would like to like the video and follow us over on Facebook, please go do that.
Yeah.
If your video platform of choice is YouTube, don't forget that you can always like the video, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to know when we post a new live show or just upload a new video from one of our interviews or any of the other fun and sometimes absurd things that we tend to do. And of course,
sometimes. We're always fun and absurd.
Unless we're depressing.
That's true.
Like today.
Yeah.
And of course, if you want to check out more of what we make but don't always have time for the videos, you can always check out the audio of every one of our shows over at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, and Stitcher, because reasons.
Agreed.
Reasons, things, and stuff.
Business.
Yep. All right. Yep. So with that, guys, thank you once again for joining us today. As always, I'm Brad. That's Mike. We're Dallas Geek. And see ya.